This time I'd like to review a sword made by Universal Swords in India. This here is a Kyu Gunto, or however it's pronounced in Japanese, I probably butchered that. Also called a Russo-Japanese sword. So you can see it's this interesting hybrid between a European military saber and a katana. This hilt was in use between 1883 and 1945, and apparently by the shape of the backstrap you can tell whether it was used by the Japanese Army or the Navy. This one here is Army. The Navy style backstrap is simply straight, so somewhat different look. The grip is made of hardened leather and bound in copper wire. All the fittings are brass as well as the guard. The blade is made of EN9 steel, which is a medium carbon steel. It has a carbon content of 0.5%, which makes it somewhat on the soft side, at least by modern standards. And since the website doesn't tell which hardness the blade is tempered to, I wanted to find that out using these testers here. In fact, I've already done that. You can see the marks right there, but the camera was not recording meanwhile, which is always great. So this is the HRC 50. I expected this to leave a mark because I didn't think that the blade was any harder than that, and that's correct. Just to show you here, you can see the mark right there. And here's the 45 tester. This one marks the edge as well. At least hopefully you can see that. And here's the HRC 40 tester. I'll make sure I get a new section of the edge. Say right here. Does seem to scratch the edge a little bit here, which I find surprising. I would have expected it to be harder than 40. Let's also do the flat of the blade, since I like to use my swords anyway, so I'm not particularly worried about scratches. On the flat, it doesn't seem to be doing anything, as far as I can see. Since the tempering appears to be in the 40 to 45 HRC range and probably closer to 40, I wouldn't expect it to hold an edge for very long. To be fair, they don't seem to be made with test cutting in mind, since they are delivered completely unsharpened. This one was sharpened by Calapatina, but factory default is dull. However, since they are marketed as functional reproductions, I wanted to see, of course, how it performs. Test cutting wasn't that good, mainly due to the edge. As I've mentioned before, Calapatina's sharpening surface is not ideal for cutting, as the angle is not acute enough and the sharpness simply lacking. If it was properly sharpened, this would cut quite well. It's a very light sword, it's less than a kilogram, so very nimble, easy to maneuver. It gives you a lot of control over the edge, and it's very easy to change direction, so quite nice. The balance is relatively close to the hilt. It's 11 centimeters from the guard, or for about 4¼ inches. So why didn't I sharpen it myself to see exactly how well it can cut? Well, basically because I kind of broke it. Because I did one of my abusive tests just to see how well the handle holds up, and it did not hold up well at all, unfortunately. You can see it wiggles around a lot. Rather, you can hear it more than you can see it. So I did some test cuts against wooden branches, not overly thick and not the most powerful swings, but relatively quickly the handle started loosening up. I don't really consider it safe anymore for serious cutting. Upon disassembling it, I found where we've got room for improvement. Just take off the guard here. And now you'll see that it's actually not full tang. It doesn't go all the way. And there's only a single screw holding it in place. The hilt would be a lot sturdier if the tang actually went through all the way to the end of the handle and was then secured with another screw down there. Although, to be fair, originals seem to have been made just like that, with only a single pin. As far as the tang length is concerned, I found one picture that looks like 3/4, but I found another one that's clearly a full tang. A bit hard to say, but overall it does seem like a historically accurate reproduction based on the pictures. Maybe the originals were simply more tightly fitted, I'm not sure. And also, it would be better if the guard was better fitted, because you can see the opening is large enough that the entire guard can wiggle quite a bit. However, the thickness of the tang itself seems fine, and the blade also held up very well. I did some rough testing with that to see if maybe the tip would bend or anything like that, but no issues with that, so the blade itself is fine. Also, it had a spring-loaded button here that controls the latch that locks it in place in the scabbard. So that must have fallen off during the tests, and yeah, now that doesn't work anymore. It used to lock in and you had to push down the button in order to draw it. The button was very stiff at first, but yeah, as you can see now it's gone. You can still sheathe it just fine and draw it normally, so it's not really a problem, but of course that doesn't look very good. The scabbard is made of solid steel and seems to be very well made. Definitely fits the sword perfectly. There appears to be a layer of leather inside to prevent scraping, which is definitely a good design. In terms of practicality, I definitely like the design. I just can't recommend it for any more than really light cutting. Water bottles should be fine, but even tatami mats could be a problem. They could cause the hilt to loosen up. It's certainly more functional than a pure wall hanger, but I still say it's mainly for decorative purposes. I'd call it semi-functional, so to speak, but I can't complain about the finish. The decorations come out beautifully and it's quite nice work aesthetically. I think if I hadn't done the abusive testing, I probably wouldn't even have found significant flaws. It certainly looks nice and it would be a great collector's piece, especially for the price. It's available for $172 at Cult of Athena, plus $25 for sharpening, but personally, I think you can save on that because it's not really suitable for cutting anyway. As someone who enjoys using swords, this is just not what I'm looking for. I got this as a free review sample, so I didn't lose any money on it. But I still find it sad because it has such potential. It was so promising because it is such a unique sword that you don't find too often, at least as reproduction. Originals don't seem to be too hard to find, but reproductions, functional ones or semi-functional, are not that easy to find in general. So that's pretty much all I have to say about it. Hope you found this helpful, and thanks for watching.